Hi, I know it's been a while. If you're watching this after my year-long hiatus of posting on this channel and inactivity, I appreciate you all the more. It's been a long time no see. My name is Rut, and I'm here for my first video of 2026 to talk today. To make a long story short, I wanted to take this channel a certain direction based on the videos I was making in 2025, and I just didn't know if it was going to interfere with my job or the position that I was holding in corporate. And so I let that kind of play with me for a year because I knew what I really wanted to do, but I didn't want to jeopardize the impression I had um, in a corporate setting. And so it took me some time, but then I figured out that a new hobby that I've had lately that I'm trying, or a new habit that I've tried to establish lately that I want to make a hobby, is reading. And I thought that I could give my perspective or give my takes after reading books on how I felt about them. And so this channel will now be known as Rut Reads. I still have some plans to do some more podcasts, like the one that I left you guys with. I have one that I'm filming later this weekend with my very close friend, my brother Yama. So look out for that. I really look forward to that. It's always fun to talk to him, and it'll always be a great conversation. So yeah, that's kind of where I want to take the channel. Maybe more just having different people on, and also giving my opinion on different books and my takes. So whether or not you've read a book, if you've read the book, you can compare my understanding and my interpretation to yours, and maybe fill me in, or maybe allow me to fill you in on how we see things differently or how we gathered information differently. And if you haven't read a book, then I'm hoping that this channel will give you the opportunity to understand if a particular book that I've read that I want to make a video on is for you and is worth reading for you. And so that's how I intend to utilize this channel. I hope you stick around. And yeah, we got big things coming. So that being said, there's nothing else left to address. We might as well hop straight into it. Welcome to my first book inference session, or book review, as you might see it. The book I'm going to be reviewing today is Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is written by James Clear. It's a fairly newer book, published in October of 2018, but is a fairly popular book and he's sold over 30 million copies online worldwide. So I'm definitely not the first person to make this a review on this book, but I felt like it was in due time for me to read this book at this point in time in my life, because I'm once again trying to get into the different habits of like making YouTube videos again, of developing the habit of reading more. I was doing a lot of meditating, and yeah, I was doing a lot of meditating towards the time when I was last posting videos, and I did that, but I didn't really see a pure benefit from it after like 10 or 15 weeks in, and so I kind of fell off of it. But I'm realizing now, as I've learned about myself over the last year, that meditation definitely has its benefits for me. And so now that I'm doing it with a reinstilled purpose, it's just yet another habit that I'm trying to make a hobby, or make something that I don't have to check myself for doing, but rather would just do out of enjoyment. So yeah, for that reason, I chose to read this book. It's a fairly medium-sized book. I think I got it done. I think I read through it in about 4 weeks, and I was reading about a chapter a day. So yeah, fairly easy to get through, fairly easy read. Um, and I'll tell you what it's about. Atomic Habits is essentially a book that outlines a bunch of various strategies that would help you to be able to develop certain habits, or things that you wish to do consistently into certain habits. Each chapter is essentially a new strategy or a new vantage point of how you can look at different as how you can make something that you want to do more of a strategy. And my personal take is chances are that if you've already made a habit before, you've had success creating habits naturally for yourself, that you've naturally probably employed multiple one, two, or a few of these strategies already without even realizing it. Or maybe you did know that. Some of the notable chapters or points that the book made that struck home for me. Number one is making a habit a part of your identity. I feel like that's something that I've had success when I've successfully attained a habit. It's something that has played a major part in why I was able to establish that as a habit. making that habit a part of how I identify myself or how I perceive myself. For example, in 2020, when all the gyms closed down because of COVID, I took to running at my local high school when I was back home to as a form of exercise. And and the first day I went out, I did my thing. I captured my my time for I aspired to go out and run 10 laps that day. I had to take 2 breaks in between running those 10 laps. 10 laps is 2.5 miles. And I just recorded my time and I sat with it and I said, all right, this is my baseline, this is my standard, or this is my this is my worst and my first day. So but as time went on, as I held myself consistent to running, because I'm just a person who feels the need to work out. I don't feel comfortable as myself if I don't work out. So running just came very naturally. But soon, maybe a couple weeks in, I started seeing myself as a runner, and that's kind of what the book tells you to do. Is they say it's to try to embellish your habit, or not embellish isn't the right word, but to ingrain your habit within the way that you see yourself, or within the way that you describe yourself to other people. And I think that really hit home for me, because when you start seeing yourself as, let's say you want to maybe you want to lift weights, you want to work on yourself in the gym and you want to lift weights. Well, if you start to see yourself as a weightlifter, if you believe in yourself that I am a weightlifter, when I truly start to believe that I'm a weightlifter and I don't go to the gym 4 or 5 out of the days of the week like I committed to myself to do, outstanding from the rest days, I am now, you feel like you're losing track of yourself. You feel like you're losing track of who you are as a person, because part of your identity is made up of lifting. Key note there, I would not advise that this should be your hobby, or whatever you're trying to make a habit should become your sole identity. You should be multifaceted. In life, it's very good to be, it's appealing, it's attractive to be someone with multiple dynamics or multiple interests. Essentially, it's aspirational to be a multi-layered person. So don't make something your entire habit. But if you start to attribute yourself as, I'm this, and I'm also a weightlifter, or I'm also a runner, now you're holding yourself accountable on a different level, because you're not just doing something that you're trying to get yourself to do more often. This is something that you see within yourself. And when you see something within yourself and you don't do it, you start to feel like you're losing yourself. And so inherently, it becomes something that you not feel like you have to force yourself to do, but something to maintain the perception of who you are in your head. And that's what this chapter talks about. And it really hit home for me, because I think it's very, very accurate. And it's and it's something that really worked for me. So if I were to give you some advice on how to build a habit, this is one of the first things that I tell you is, don't take something on if you're not going to be willing to ingrain it within who you are as a person. So yeah, that's habit strategy number 1. Habit strategy number 2 is to make the thing that you want to turn into a habit attractive, and make the opposite of it unattractive. So think about this. I've never smoked a cigarette a day in my life, and so I'm hoping that this is an analogy that hits for some, but it's not something that I can directly relate to. But I'm sure that there's a fair amount of people, in high school or in college or at an early age, who were appealed to smoke a cigarette because they felt like everyone else around them who was doing it was cool. When you feel like all the cool kids in high school are smoking cigarettes or smoking e-cigs or Juuls, whatever the case may be, when you start to see it as, hey, everyone who's cool seems to be doing this thing, you now inherently want to do that thing that makes you see the other people as cool. So now you make smoking cigarettes something that is a requirement for being cool, or a requirement for being with the in crowd. Now, cigarettes are extremely addictive. Tobacco, nicotine is extremely addictive. It's very hard to get off of, especially when you get on it at a very early age. Your brain is not as developed to be able to counteract or to be able to perceive the negative things that are going on, or the temptations that strike you. And so, you get engulfed into this thing. Now smoking a cigarette makes you feel cool. You feel like you feel like you relate to people, and it's now just become a habit for you. Let's say 10 years go by and you decide, hey, I want to stop smoking cigarettes now. Well, one of the ways, and this is the second point that I was trying to make, or the second point that this book makes well, is that the way that you once hooked onto the fact that everyone who's cool smokes cigarettes, so I need to smoke cigarettes, you should start identifying the opposite of that. So if I've now that I've started smoking cigarettes, if I want to stop smoking cigarettes, instead of finding the people that smoke cigarettes cool, I'm gonna shift my mental paradigm and I'm gonna look at sobriety, or I'm gonna look at the people who don't smoke cigarettes. I'm gonna look at that aesthetic, that lifestyle, that whatever that looks like. And social media is so good at portraying different lifestyles of people, so inherently this makes it easier. But I would start looking at the sober lifestyle as something that's cool. Now, if I want to fit into the things that I feel like are cool, I'm going to embody the same things that this new crowd of people that I feel is cool is actually doing. So when I thought that smoking cigarettes was cool, I want to be with the in crowd. Now, if the new in crowd are the people who don't smoke cigarettes, I don't know, the people who go to the sauna, the people who whatever the case may be, whatever that sober lifestyle looks like for you, when you start to envision yourself as being a part of that, when you want to fit into that, when you make the thing that you want to quit and the thing that you want to become, when you make the thing that you want to quit unattractive and you make the thing that you want to obtain, which is sobriety from cigarettes, attractive, it makes it just as easy as it was for you to get hooked onto cigarettes because you thought it was cool. It's a lot easier now to be hooked onto sobriety or to quit your cigarette addiction because you don't want to identify with an uncool group. You want to identify with the group that you feel is cool now, which are the people that aren't smoking cigarettes, the people that are portraying themselves as being sober. And so it's kind of the same thing with making something a part of your identity. But if you want to develop a habit, make that habit or make the people who do that habit appealing or attractive or something that you want to be a part of. And if you want to quit a habit, no longer see the thing that you're doing as cool. Instead, see the thing that people are doing the opposite of, like not smoking cigarettes, like they are the in crowd. These are the people that are cool. These are the people that stand out to me. These are the people that I want to be more like. When you start doing it, when you start thinking about it like that, I'm not going to say that's going to be the reason why you quit cigarettes by any means, but it might be a little bit easier to get off of that habit because you are looking at those people as, hey, I want to be like them. And if I have to quit smoking cigarettes, that's what I'm gonna do. I know that I want to be like them, and I also know that cigarettes aren't good for me. So, I'm looking at a win-win situation here. Now, can I have the mental capacity to be able to quit this habit fully? It's gonna take more than just seeing who's the cool group, but this can help for sure. And then point number 3 is falling in love with the progress. I'll tie this back to me becoming a runner over time. Like I told you, the first day that I ever ran, I recorded, I realized that it took me I had to take a break 2 times. I had to rest 2 different increments between my 10 laps. And I wrote down my time that it took for me to run 2.5 miles or 10 laps. Then the next day I went out again and I just tried to do better than that. And I did and I didn't have to try that hard, but I did do better than that. And then a week later, I only needed to take 1 break to run 10 laps. And my time was actually the same as it took for me to take 2 breaks. That's still improvement right there. Falling in love with progress is a very easy way to develop a habit, seeing the success. And I think that's honestly one of the biggest things for me as well in terms of how I've developed habits over time. It's just seeing the output, seeing the improvement. Another great example of an output is going to the gym. When you lift hard at the gym, when you lift weights, you get to see the pumped version of yourself. You get to see a pump. That pump is sort of instant gratification. It shows you look in your mirror and you're like, damn, I look good. And I don't normally look like this when I don't lift weights. So what does that tell my body? When I want to give my body a healthy dopamine release by reaping the fruits of my labor, by being impressed with what I see in front of me right now in the mirror, I have to go lift weights again. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go lift weights. And I think that you tend to just fall in love with the improvement over time. And that's something that makes developing a habit very, very easy. Now, I gave you 2 athletically based examples that, inherently are pretty easy to see the success or the rewards, the benefits of the work that you're putting in fairly easy. But another habit that I'm working on right now is playing chess. And I want to become a better chess player because I do genuinely enjoy playing chess, but 2, because I want to be able to develop better concentration. I have a tendency to rush things a lot in my head. I think very fast. And when you play chess, especially as you get better and better, you get penalized for thinking very fast. So inherently, by me playing chess, by me taking on a fun hobby or something that I find fun, but also learning to retrain my brain, I'm I'm telling myself if I want to reap the success of winning a highly competitive chess game, I have to untrain my brain to rush. I have to learn to take some time and think a few moves ahead and try to create a prediction of what the guy's going to do next. My opponent is going to do next. But the thing is that you might not reap the benefit that you see so directly. I can't go look in the mirror and look at my brain and say, damn, my brain looks good as fuck today. I'm sorry. Good as hell today. Because your brain isn't going to show you a pump like your bicep might. But there you have to look at the indirect things, the indirect effects, the indirect benefits. Like you might notice, after 3 weeks of playing chess, hey, I just when I was at work, I just locked in for an hour. I didn't look at my phone for an hour. I had some music playing. I didn't touch my phone, and I really just sat there for an hour and got work done. And that could be an indirect attribution to the fact that you've been playing chess and you've been teaching your brain how to concentrate for longer. So my point is that these things will show up in different ways. These the benefits can show up very directly or they can show up indirectly. But something that's going to be very redeeming for you when you're trying to build a habit is to look for the benefits. They might be right in front of you sometimes, like when you go to the gym, but they also might show up in different places where you don't necessarily expect to see them, or they're not right in front of your face at a time like when you are playing chess or reading a book to concentrate longer, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, those are the three main points that I wanted to talk about that really hit home for me, that were reflected in this book, and that I realized that subconsciously worked for me in the several habits that I've built over the years. And so, but here's what my conclusion is to this book. I think Atomic Habits is a good book for people who struggle very much with picking up habits. I have added and changed to my identity very many times throughout my life. I've redeveloped and rebuilt myself at least like 4 times since I turned 18. And so I say that to say that I don't feel like this book gave me any real groundbreaking insight that I wasn't at least subconsciously aware of. And that's as someone who's always been interested in growing and doing something new on a daily or weekly basis. So if you're like me, this book may just make you more aware of what you're already doing. But if you are someone who's struggled to maintain a habit, or you see yourself slipping back into routines and patterns that you didn't necessarily, or that you wanted to break, etc., then this book could be good for you. This book would be effective because it's going to show you, it's got at least 16 to 20 chapters in it. That's 16 to 20 different strategies of how you can quit the cycle that you keep falling back into, which is highly effective. And that's a lot of different material that you can use to your advantage. And so that's my conclusion. To summarize, if you've not really had a problem developing habits over time, and you know what works for you, I think that this book is just going to tell you what you might have not consciously realized. But if you are someone who really struggles with building habits, or you feel like you've been doing the same thing for years on end now, and you don't know how to change it, this is a book that I would recommend to read for you. So there you go. That's my conclusion. That's my take on Atomic Habits by James Clear. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it insightful. One thing I'd really appreciate is if you told me which books you would want me to read next. I'm currently reading Think and Grow Rich. So it's a little bit different. It's still kind of a self-improvement book, but more from a finances standpoint. And so, yeah, if there's anything else that you want me to read after that video will be coming as soon as I finish that book. If there's anything else that you'd like me to talk or read about, please give me a comment. Give me a comment on what you thought of this review and of if this was helpful to you, or how I could kind of change the way that I did this. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you stayed till the end of this video, I appreciate you so much. And the mere fact that you clicked on this video after a year of me being gone means even more to me. So thank you very much. Salute, and I'm out of here. Peace.